wise.
You would assume our production budget's going to increase over time. Anyways.
Perhaps.
Maybe that's what we can aspire to.
I really wanted us to be close. Yeah.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever.
Yeah, it's like chilling at your homie's house back in the day.
Yeah.
Good. Right after school, you got a little bit of herb on the table. Man, well, Tim.
I don't pick weed out of the carpet anymore if I smoke it.
No. My day of smoking roaches,
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. There are no residents.
No. Guys, welcome back. Highly motivated. I can't even remember what episode this is, but you guys remember Tim? We had Tim with
I'm back.
Jesse.
Tim Nurse's back.
I got invited back,
He's
so
back.
I must not have fucked it up. Or
We
anything
was
too
enough
bad.
fun the last time. I mean, there was the green room had fruit. It had it all.
yeah, I gotta say the hospitality is very nice. Thank you.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Rule Manitoba strong.
Yeah. Good old Canadian boys.
I'm sure your wife had nothing to do with it.
No,
so,
I'm the one that prepared all the snacks.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Took the trip to Safeway.
Yeah, shout out to Mrs. P. Yeah, we had to make sure that everybody was accounted for. The fridge has got lots of alcohol in it. There's lots of snacks out on the dish or out on the table. But yeah, man, we were very thankful you could come. I remember last time you were on with Jesse. We were talking about your involvement in the industry and your involvement with TobaRolling and that whole adventure, and really just how Manitoba is kind of an open slate right now when it comes to taking advantage of this industry. And just wanted to pick your brain a little bit more on the space and your involvement. And,
Sure.
Yeah, what it's about.
I'm an open book.
Sweet, man. Just a refresher. Tim,
We're here to bug you.
Who are you?
I'm Tim Dirksen. I'm one of the owners of TobaRolling, and which is a cannabis processing and distribution company. Is that the best way to put it? Yeah, I think so. That's what we do, and so that's who I am. Do you want backstory? I guess people got some last time, but
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind,
yeah, I grew up.
Talk about it. Don't put him on the spot like that. He sells drugs.
I sell weed for a living, and it's great.
Yeah, and it's
I have a
great.
wife and a daughter and a dog and a cat.
And is your mom proud?
Yeah, you know what? My parents are proud, and it's interesting actually. That's an interesting question because I grew up in a fairly strict Mennonite Christian home, and so cannabis in my upbringing was always bad. It was alcohol's bad, cannabis is bad, drugs are bad, like all of that. And but when I first got involved in the cannabis business, I was sort of seeking the counsel of my dad. We had a family business my whole life, and we sold it. So he's retired. He's kind of bored, and he's got a ton of wisdom that he's always willing to and wanting to share. And so I was asking him about it. I said, I'm thinking about doing this, investing in this. What do you think? And for his first response is, can't you just pick something normal? Was his first response. But then as we had more conversation and dug into it, it turned out to be like they both thought it was a little weird at first, and then they were super comfortable with it. To the point where like my first venture in cannabis was in a micro cultivation facility, and my dad would come help with harvest. Like he would come and help out with harvest because you're harvesting, a couple thousand plants. It's a bit of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Now we don't veg them. We didn't veg them as long as you do at home, but it's still a lot of work. Harvest is work.
It is a lot of work. That's one of those things you figure out real quick. The novelty of harvest wears off at about the second harvest.
Yeah.
The excitement of like, yay, I got so much herb. We're gonna be trimming for days, and God, my anxiety level goes to like a 9 when I hear that we're going to be trimming for days.
Trim jail is not an exciting place to be.
No, but you know what is exciting is when you've got family that you love, that you trust, that you can do.
That's the fun thing too. Look, with the watching families and how they like adapt to what you're doing. Like my mom, she was super against it. When she'd come visit, you had to hide the bongs and stuff. She knew we were doing it, but heaven forbid it be out, right? So like that was always an issue. And I left a pre-filled one hitter on the kitchen counter, and it was like for medicinal purposes. She just couldn't deal with the things anymore and had got interested enough that kind of talked to me about it. and she wouldn't do it in front of me or near me. And I like left it in the kitchen, and Dad said it was there for like 2 days, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. And then like a couple of days after that, I got a text of like, okay, so if I was going to use this stuff, and then it like got the path of like getting her hooked up, and I could buy her a vape and stuff too. But it's just, it's just so funny how that position changes. I mean, we're the generation of the DARE programs.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was just, I remember being in elementary school and just like, I'm never touching this stuff. And then, you know, that changes obviously. But it's just having that, and like my mom was a little bit of like the immigrant parent situation. Her opinion of like coming from Argentina and South America, like dealing with cannabis was just on par, generally associated with something a little bit more negative. So it takes the family time to adjust. But I've even with grandparents and stuff, my grandfather, every time I see him and he like asks me about it, you know, how work's going, and he's still like, so you don't have to worry about the cops or something? I'm like, hey, we're like 5 years into this. Hey, like you don't have to. I'm fine. It's fine. They take my tax money.
But that's how like deeply implanted that stigma is, and like that's they built it over 100 years,
right,
or 200 years,
yeah.
And it's not going to go away in 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. Like you're not. Some of that generation will never accept it, which is also fine. People don't have to. But it's exciting to see, and you have a store, so you see this probably more often, but it's exciting to see when, like, if I'm in a store visiting someone or dropping something off, seeing like an elderly person come in.
Right.
And like they're in a cannabis store, and they would have never thought in their life they would enter a cannabis store and buy weed legally.
Yeah. That's the truth.
That's the opportunity, I think, with the legal industry, is opening up to that. The rest of us were already meeting people in Dollarama parking lots to like hop in a Chevy Blazer and pick up a baggie.
That's funny that you use Chevy Blazer, by the way,
because
that's how
cool,
that
right?
was my in high school.
Yeah,
yep.
Like
Chevy
everybody
Blazer.
bought drugs
Yeah.
from somebody driving a Chevy
Yeah.
Blazer. Come on, that's
so funny.
a calling card. Yeah,
I have never had that comment come up before.
No,
But
no, that's when they were bringing them back, and I was just like, oh, drug dealers are gonna be so excited.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Good Chevy
like
Blazer.
that's your experience.
What color was your guys?
Oh, black.
Black?
Black. No red.
Green. I had green and black.
Oh, okay.
He upgraded at one point.
See, well, there was an upgraded sound system in this one. Like the trunk was used with a sub box. So
You're not going to Keith, right?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, my guy had a sub box. We compared our subs. We had the same guy.
But that's who I was even referencing with this one. But that one's also an available option.
That's so funny. So where were we going with that?
Dealing with the adjustment.
The family thing. So
stuff.
So the family, everyone in my family was really great. My brother likes plants, and so he has a huge garden at home. He lives out of town, and he's got a massive garden. And so he was right away interested because it's plants and he loves plants. My mom doesn't like the smell of it, so that bugs her a bit still, but that's okay. But she doesn't shit talk it. She thinks it's good. She likes the business I do and the business I'm in.
Family's happy, bills are being paid.
Yeah, and the big hurdle for them was legality. And so if it's legal, then okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether they understand the fundamentals.
If I said like, hey, I'm gonna get into the drug business, but I'm gonna sell it illegally, like that would be a separate.
Yeah.
I would never get them to warm up to that, but
you would think with most families anyway.
I would think that would be common. Yes.
Yeah.
I guess the cartel, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some families it runs deep in.
It's an old school businessman. It's a juice worth the squeeze question for him, probably. First of all, and then we move on from there. Like, how much?
Does your dad still have lots to do with the process?
No, he just comes for harvest. And
yeah.
We still talk. Like I talk to him all the time. We have coffee fairly frequently, and like talk about business. Like business is how we built a bond beyond just father son, because we both were running the family business, and he's just such a, like I said before, he's just, if you can talk to someone who's been in entrepreneurship for 35 or 40 years, like the amount of knowledge that they're holding that they want to share is amazing.
Yeah, untapped.
There's so much to learn.
We've talked about that as like just a shared luck that we've had is having dads in business and being able to I had more of an issue connecting with my peers in school because I'd be working at the lanes on the weekend, getting involved with stuff, getting all this affirmation from adults, and then you want me to go to school and pay attention on Monday.
I was so
Right.
bad in school.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that. Right?
Because I just wanted to work.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was work and hang out. Like that's what I wanted.
Yeah,
to do.
yeah, like that seemed like way more fun than what I was dealing with
Yeah,
at school.
like
and
school,
it was
I
hard to
didn't-
look past.
I didn't get a paycheck, and I didn't really feel like I got to use my skill set that I've been learning my entire fucking life.
Yeah, having dads hone you to do a certain
Yeah.
thing is like it's a whole trip within itself. But yeah, that's it makes it interesting to talk. Like we've been talking about in a different episode being dads and having that work out. I mentioned weaving in with parents because it's always the interest. We started our son in preschool this year for the first year, and so like as everybody starts talking in the hallways, they're like letting the kids in, doing the what do you do? What do you do? And I'm like standing in the goof with my black tie cannabis tube, like walking in. It's the afternoon, just like, oh, I sell drugs. And what do you do? It's just everybody's reaction to it is just so funny. That's one of the exciting things about being involved in this and having just the average parent, because like the interest level goes up. You already have something to talk about.
It's a good icebreaker to make.
Yeah,
friends,
it's just
too.
a fun
Yeah,
icebreaker.
Because you don't make friends as an adult. It's
harder.
It is a lot harder.
Or less likely.
Less
Yeah.
likely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Less likely. And so it's like when you're walking and meeting and greeting, it's definitely a great icebreaker.
Yeah.
You don't do a lot of like pushback.
People always have questions.
Right.
Like, I find more often than not when I tell someone I'm in the cannabis business, it's like they have a loaded deck of questions already. They just haven't met someone who owns something in it.
Totally. It's not even like they're like, oh, so you're a drug dealer. It's like they just don't know.
They just
They're
have
like,
no.
what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, what part of this are you involved in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I love getting chances to talk about it with people, like other entrepreneurs, and because what I'm finding is like that, and I'd love to see more of that gap bridge, but like people in the cannabis business aren't part of the same business communities as easily, like in Winnipeg, for instance, the small business entrepreneur community. You don't see a lot of cannabis. You don't talk a lot about those two groups being together, and maybe it's my own limited belief that wouldn't happen, or that hasn't happened yet, because it's probably my fault. I probably just have to go find it, but like I feel it, and it's just like we're a new market, we're a new business, it's just a little bit different, but it's a business.
Well, I think there's things, and I think we touched base on this when you were here last time, Jesse.
Who's Jesse?
Space, yeah.
Who's Jesse? I don't.
Don't stop saying his name. That's 2 times already.
Not
Yeah,
familiar.
he's coming. He's gonna
We don't
be-
need to do this
Oh,
again.
shit, yeah, I know.
Just
Never mind.
But getting like consumption spaces, for instance.
Yeah.
When you work in the alcohol industry, there are things that you do after work, or things that you do for work with meetings and such, that become part of the, and that we're missing with this is the ability to have a space to comfortably do that, besides renting a house just to entertain clients. And that seems crazy. It just, what else do you do? You work with the automotive industry. There's a lot of grabbing drinks and everything,
Tons
right?
of
I imagine, right?
Yeah, oh,
Yeah. And if we had the ability to do that with the product that we actually sell, like some form of grabbing a drink or something's going to happen anyways, but it would just be nice to have that be a little bit more ubiquitous in the process.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like it. Go ahead.
No, we'll get there. We'll get there. Like I
I do believe we'll get there.
Yeah, I already see it. It's funny because like I'm a home grower. It's kind of the difference between us all. We're all involved in the industry in some form or fashion, which is really cool. One thing I've learned about having my own supply is that it's not necessarily a bargaining tool, but I sure use it as a way of showing my appreciation. In the same way that like maybe in the 70s, someone used to bring over their neighbor a casserole. If someone does something for me that I'm very appreciative of, I'm going to bring them a little something.
Yeah.
The last example was I had a guy came over to my house and did the eaves trough. Did a great job, wonderful job. I asked him if he partake, and he said yes, and just gave him a little care package.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do it while he was at work, which I totally respected, but I wanted to show my appreciation by giving some flowers. and that's okay. Not to mention that is legal. That's totally legal too. I'm not breaking the law. But it's in no different than showing up to a party or a dinner with friends and bringing a bottle of wine.
Right.
I like to bring flowers.
That's the thing too, being within the cannabis space, like the expectation as people that like host parties. You're a guy that hosts a lot of things in your place on Sim 2 location, landlocked, where everybody is.
Yep.
I know you do a ton of that. The expectation of having things or variety for people, like, do you think that exists as part of your hosting duties now, as much as the expectation to have that as be part of, just like alcohol? Like, you're not going to host a party and not have the booze kicking around and everything, and if you don't have something to smoke.
Well, we talked about that on the way here. You had some people over to your house, and like your sort of preferred consumption is, you know, dabs or extra. You'll smoke anything.
Yeah.
And fairly potent. Like you have a tolerance, and you're a regular user. And someone had come over, I think is what you said last time we were here, or on the way last time, and you had said like someone came over and they're like, do you have any like CBD or anything? And you were like, I am ill prepared for that type of
That is in the spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm going to get this guy coming over to my house, and I'm like the one person that smokes more than I do. And so it's just about accommodating to that level more than the other side. And it just, that's something that is, again, more users come into play, which is, I mean, that's a big thing that I try to do with the shop, is just the accessibility, getting the soccer mom to buy a joint instead of a bottle of wine, and how that plays out. But if you're not doing things to make it accessible, then it's just like we're just perpetuating the same shit.
Yeah, I like the, you know, I do play by the same idea that like I like to have a multitude of ways for people to consume. I've got very large bongs.
I have to consider it more. Like,
yeah, that's just it. You have to. You have to, because you have people of all kinds of ranges that are going to come and enjoy it. And so my biggest concern having you guys over was my trim, because as a home grower,
where you are at this stage and everything.
I was like, my trim job is gone, because my level of expectation for trim for non-purchased weed is way down here.
Well, it's your own.
Of course,
you get to do.
I get to do whatever I want.
Mine, you know what? Honestly, my homegrown stuff, half the time I'll pick it pretty clean before I harvest. I'll dry it, and then I'll just shove it in jars, and then like I might trim it. I might just pick it off as I use it. Like, I don't care. It's my home stuff. Like,
that's it. The first few buds that get harvested, really done well.
Oh yeah, like I can take the pictures. And then after that,
the ones that are different.
And then by the end of the plant, it's just like, that's good enough.
It's the highlight.
My back is
we
killing
talked
me.
about the highlight reel last time. I was here. We made a couple jokes about that.
That's right.
The corners you're backed into because of social media life.
This has to be pretty to a certain point. But my expectation. But if I'm going to be purchasing it, then that's obviously, it's got to be manicured wonderfully and pieced together. It's got to be presentable.
You're spending money on it, and you have high expectations. Right? You have an expectation. Whereas with your own, you don't particularly.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
How do you You're sort of, all three of us here, in a very different part of this industry. How do you feel about, and maybe let's talk about the legal cannabis market in general, and then let's maybe hone in on like Canada or whatever. Like, what do you see? You've traveled, you've been to other places.
And you deal with a lot.
You go to Vegas all the time. You deal with a lot of the U.S. market. I think in
way
what you
more
do, like tons.
Yeah, way more.
How do you feel about all that? What do you see? What do you see there? What do you see here?
It's funny you asked that, because when the first time we met was at the TobaRolling
second anniversary thing.
That's right.
The lawsuit.
I had an opportunity, and never before that time had I ever talked to anyone in the industry.
Locally, especially.
Locally, sorry.
Which is so funny to hear like that.
Right.
I know. Right. It's just as I've again built all these relationships, met all these people, and getting the opportunity to do these things, and I'm like, I've got this guy sitting out here just.
You're completely unaware
of what's going on.
I had no idea. So I was having a conversation with some of the producers, if you will, and leave names out of it, but they were very focused on quality, and I respected that. However, I brought up the conversation of branding, and it almost fell entirely on deaf ears, because the focus was so on quality and not on branding.
Yeah.
And when I go down to America, you can flip that.
Right.
The focus. Now, I'm not saying that.
Both have their positives.
I'm not saying that Canadians aren't focused on branding, and I'm not saying Americans aren't focused on quality. I'm just saying that if you want to compete in this industry, your quality isn't enough. There's a lot of good weed out there that nobody knows anything about. You need to compete
right now.
You need to compete against the CANNABIS. You got to compete against the Auroras. You got to compete against the Burners. You got to compete against the Khalifa Kushes. You've got to compete. Branding is key. So
in Canada, we're a little different. That's the
only because I can't slap a name on it. My name on it, but you can still brand it, right?
Yeah.
And of course, advertising has its.
But
there's
look at Houseplant is a good example of that.
Exactly.
A huge public name, a brand that I was very excited for as I originally got in and carried basically the entire lineup that they had. And then as the market grew, there was no connection to understand where the quality measure was, and then they pulled out. Right now, I know that there's intentions of bringing the brand back and everything like that, but it's just. It was one of the early markers of guys realizing that this isn't going to be a walk in the park gold.
That's right.
Thing.
Yeah.
This is going to evolve. Things are going to get better. Customers are going to require, greater quality and dollar value. And that had all of the pieces. I mean, it had a great name, great marketing attached to somebody that's very well known. They did all the things to skirt around their ability to have him have his face on the canister, and it still didn't work.
Right.
It's branding is definitely more of a challenge in Canada than it is in the States.
It certainly is. You can't, and I understand that you can't put a picture. You can't stick it on a billboard.
Yeah.
You can't put an advertisement in on the regular TV, on the cable news or what have you. But that's not to say that you can't penetrate the online market.
Correct.
That's not to say that you can't, you can't work your local market. Door to door goes a long way, man. I mean, although it is an older tactic, talking to your constituents face to face.
People still want to talk. They want to connect.
They do. And like you said, when you said that people want to ask questions.
Yeah.
You go to their door and you tell them that you're in this and for what your intentions are, they are going to ask you questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And I just think, and so when I had that conversation, I tried to bring this up, but it was very quickly brought down in terms of, well, it's tough, it's hard. There's too many regulations. And I'm sitting here going like, I've made a platform of 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, made a pretty big name for myself.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you. And I didn't do, you know what I mean? Like, and I didn't even have a product to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it can be done if you harness that and give it intention and give it a purpose and find an audience, create a community. It can be done. So that was one of the biggest difference. And of course, I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just saying that when you go to America, when you can slap a burner or a Khalifa Kush on a billboard and say $40 ounces, that's a big difference. Versus when you come here and it's like you can't see in the windows. Yeah. You can't advertise nothing. You don't even know that there's an industry here.
But it's the framework we have to work within, and not even have to. It's the framework we've all chosen to work within.
Yep.
Right.
Chris, you and I are in the cannabis business. We immediately, by doing that, you're consenting to play by the rules.
Right.
And that you're embracing that.
Signing the licenses.
Here's what the business I want to be in, and as long as I'm in it, I need to play by those rules, and I'm accepting that that's the situation I'm in.
Yeah,
and it's not all bad by any means. I don't want it to come off negative. It's a different set of challenges, but every business has a different set of challenges, and these are ours.
That's right.
But heavy regulated industries, everybody's dealing with these things. It could be worse.
It was a huge challenge for me when I first entered the cannabis business. I was like, because I've never been in a regulated, in an automotive store. I was in the automotive industry,
which is one of the most regulated, if you think about it.
Well,
insurance. I was in the distribution side of the business,
which was
different,
less regulated.
I was used to deciding I wanted to change something, and then an hour later I change it, and that I've had to really make a lot of adjustments in my thinking to add that portion in where it's like, oh, I can't do that. Okay, well, what am I trying to accomplish? And what can I do? And then how do I find a way to get there? Instead of, oh, I can't do that and it's defeating. oh, fuck these regulations are annoying, blah, blah, blah. Like, I try not to say those things because I'm choosing to work within them. And
Sure.
so
Sure.
I get to complain once in a while.
Sure.
And even if nobody wants to hear it, I don't give a shit.
That's
But,
right.
like, the reality of it is, like, I've chose to be here. Now it's my challenge to figure that out.
I felt that way, especially out of the retail side of things, where I think early on there's been a lot of pushback and some of the regulation portions, and I'm like, but the thing is that we're all working under the same rules, and it's your ability to navigate that. And I have no problem if I understand the game I'm playing and the rules I have to play.
Yep.
I can work within these things. I have a little bit of the little guy mentality, so I'm not the guy that immediately goes to, well, I could just change this. I'm just like, no, I see how I can make this work. And my expectation, my optimism comes from the fact that I'm like, we're going to figure this out. Like, we can't be this fucking stupid. Follow the money. That's the thing that matters and has shown time and time again. This is new, and we're just trying to appease a handful of people, and in not that long of a time, we're going to be making decisions that we're like, can you remember when we couldn't do this? That's
Right.
so
And
silly.
we get to be a part of that group.
Yeah.
That's an
Yep.
exciting
Yeah.
thing.
Like, we did it when you couldn't do that.
Like, we were here doing this thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Building the thing's fun. It's just that and being a part of it and seeing like how that much that changes on a constant basis and stuff too. It's like a weird thing, again, bringing it back to like the parent stuff, but when you're doing these conversations and the drop off circles and stuff, and it's there's just like, there's a bunch of crazy things, and I know these people personally. Like new brands are coming, and you're excited about this stuff, and all these people have this crazy negative attitude about their job, and
Yeah.
I'm just like thinking about this fun dinner drinks I had with a supplier.
Yeah.
I got to learn about these new products, or like these guys are joining, and this is going to be awesome. You know what this is going to do? And it's just somebody bugged me about it a little while ago about always talking about work, and I was like, there's two options. You have people that talk about work all the time that complain about working 5 hours of overtime, and then there's the guys that talk about work all the time because they love what they do. I'm like, you got to be one or the other. Like, you're going to be an asshole one way or the other. I might as well be the guy that's excited.
It's going to take up 60% of your life or whatever.
Or more.
More. You may as well enjoy it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I have the opportunity that I really enjoy this.
I think of, too, like, the rules that we play within. It's like, if you ever played a video game before and then, like, the video game got updated and everybody's like, I hate this update. This is horrible. But then yet people figure out how to do the craziest shit within that meta. You know, it's like they still figure out how to do crazy trick shots. They still figure out how to throw grenades from one side of the map to the other side of the map. Like, they figure out how to do it. And then there's those that just quit and give up because they can't.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to be the guy that still figures out how to take advantage of the meta.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's rules. Yeah, there's regulations. But like any good entrepreneur or any good, like a lawyer, you learn to manipulate the system. You see the rules and it's like, okay, I can play within them.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about the Manitoba system is it's so juvenile and there's so many of those avenues. Yeah, you can't do the traditional things, but
that's a crazy expectation.
That's a crazy
That
expectation.
would be insane to expect that.
Right.
And this is not a traditional business. There is no tradition in this business.
No, right.
In the legal market, there is no traditions. I'm pretty sure you got to do it for more than 4 years to call it a tradition. But that's the exciting thing.
And I think like there are still things that like branding still holds true to, and I think there's gonna be a shift there as you were saying, like there's so much good stuff out there. So how do you differentiate and how do you validate maybe some of the higher dollar stuff with the craft things? And there's still things like glass jars, or like you don't have to be another pouch with a label on it. Like those things too. If you want to play the premium game, the customer is still expecting that
premium experience
from every step of the way, right? Like as soon as that stuff starts to deteriorate, I think it starts to take away from the brand because the customer's still they want this. I think the industry itself wants to cheapen its value more than the customer does. I think the customer wants to treat us like the fine wine industry or like, something more equated to that where there are items of prestige and they can feel that they are getting value from either spending a certain dollar or being in the know with, let's say, grow companies and stuff and knowing who's putting out really good products at that time. and customers want that. And there's a degree where some of the retail sector, some of the actual production, or they're kind of waiting that. But I think that's inevitably a retail thing that's going to happen anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Walmart's going to exist.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
naturally.
the
And that's
general
gonna
store's
happen.
gonna exist.
But it's like so's Amazon. But it's a matter
Yeah.
of but get your product on the Walmart shelf. Get your product
Yeah.
on the Amazon shelf. Sure, having your own brick and mortar store might be done. It might be done. You might not be able to get away with, look at Blockbuster.
They're coming back.
Prime example. Yeah, so did the records. But look at Blockbuster. It's like they were unwilling to look at the internet as an option.
And didn't
And
buy Netflix.
Didn't buy.
Yeah, and didn't buy
And look what's Blockbuster.
Yeah.
So it's like this is what I see right now is that it's like, okay, well, it's you have to learn to adapt.
Yeah.
And there is a way. There is a way. The internet does exist. And although the government in Canada kind of wants to restrict that, they're not there yet. They're not there yet. Now, you were in cannabis before Toba Rolls.
Yes,
Right?
yes. My first entrance into cannabis was a micro cultivation facility. So a grower. I'm not a grower. I got into that for fun because I wanted to learn about it. But
Is that like is that a thing where do you have like something that I have the store, but there's always like these little ideas of little side projects where I'm always like, I'll throw an hour or something at it, or like, I wonder if I could do this, or I wonder what this is. Is there something that you have that you're like, even whether it's not available under the current framework or just not available under the constraints of time you have to put into stuff, which is like generally the real issue here.
Time is such a huge portion of that, especially when you're in a business that's in growth mode.
Right.
Like growth mode is.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I consider you guys are such a staple for what's going on here, and it's
getting our producer to refill
your like you've quickly become such a staple with the Toba Syndicate that again, it's this whole industry is such a timed up. Things keep happening so quick, and then just like reacting and trying to figure out what's going on all the time, and it seems that you guys have been around for such a time that it's like, oh, you guys are established and it's a whole thing, but like it's been barely. You guys,
7 months, eight months, maybe?
Right? Like I'm like, you guys aren't even at a year yet.
No, we haven't even hit 1 year yet.
That's insane. That's
I know.
It's crazy how much you've accomplished in less than a year.
It's, you know what, I have amazing partners and a really, really good team behind that.
That's the key, man.
Without every single one of them, it'd be a nightmare. And
that's the key. You got to surround yourself with smart
and
trustful.
It's hard in a brand new business to get all your hires right every time.
Of course,
when you're growing that fast, like you're not gonna, and you go through some people, but you find your people, and I think every business owner.
That's a continuing, evolving thing, anyways, right?
Yeah.
Like it is so difficult to get everybody on the same page. Everybody's got such different drivers, and so finding some symmetry there, I imagine, is impossible.
Yeah, and so it's about if you have, and when I was here last time with, I'm not going to use those who we will not speak of, because if I say it again, he's going to show up. If you say his name to a bong 3 times, he'll show up. But when you find people,
beer comes out of
when you find people with matching energies, complementing skill sets, it's unbelievable what you can accomplish if you work together. If you can find a way to work together, like it's unbelievable what you can do.
It's the truth. I get it.
Because we're all great at some stuff, and we're all not so great at some stuff.
Yeah.
And I know every entrepreneur wants to think they could do better than everybody else at everything, but the best thing I ever learned is like, find people who are better at all the things I'm not the best at.
We're supposed to be able to do everything to a degree, but like I think everything is like you get to clean the toilets.
Yeah, that's also part of that.
Of course, you get like it's all of those things. But
sometimes
you don't get to grow without those other people.
Yeah,
right. Like that's the difference.
Yeah,
it's like where you get to put your attention, whether you get to focus on doing the things that are building your business, not just operating.
Well, Chris, you worked every open hour of that store every day.
Yeah, like there's some situations that's how you
when you just started, that's what you did.
Yes.
And that's
and that's how you run a business.
And that's
start a business.
Why you're where you are today.
Yeah, well, it was taking an opportunity. I didn't have the initial funding that a lot of large scale competitors had to get themselves going and everything. And it was like, okay, I have an opportunity to own a weed store. So how do I pivot what I have going now, make sure I use my dollars efficiently as possible,
make this happen.
and we make this happen? And you buy the cheap stuff on Amazon, and you build everything yourself, and you do that stuff.
Yeah.
But like, then here we are a couple of years past that, and it's much
two
fun.
employees later.
Yeah,
You know,
like, and doing the freedom of having getting involved in stuff like this and everything, that it just, you go like, this is worth my time. This is fun. It just the change in how I feel about my career and everything, let alone what the business is doing itself, but just being able to like actually start focusing on running the business, not just operating it. And,
Yeah.
and collaborating. It's not a lot of fun to do everything by yourself. I love coming in when the staff are there and we get to like talk about menu stuff and even just the shooting the shit portion of it.
Yeah.
And just being assholes.
Well, and just
Like,
not being
that's
on an
just-
island. Like, it's so hard to always
right.
be on an island.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough.
Yeah, I'm not good with making low level decisions by myself. Like the basic stuff.
Yeah.
You're-
Black or red? What do you think?
You're talking about, like you're right up my alley. I've been in this industry since 2014, and I've been making content online since 2014, and I have not the first
Coming up on 10 years.
the first guy I met in the industry. Well, I guess would have been technically you because you got in,
Yeah.
but it's probably escaping me. But like it would be Jesse.
Mm.
And then,
Damn it. I think there's
Oh,
enough words.
shit.
Enough words for setting me clean. I think we're okay.
I just
Tomato juice probably.
I've been working on an island for so long, and to know that there is an entire community that's been surrounding me this whole time
Yeah.
is so refreshing.
And
It's
that would
so-
want to engage with you and like
Yes.
invite you in, like welcome you in,
Yeah.
and have you be like,
yeah, that's how I felt. That's how I felt. I just point as if there's somebody here. Man.
yeah,
That's how I felt, man. This whole place has been nothing, or the whole community has been nothing but opening arms. That I talk about the guys over at Cypress Craft, and there would be so many more too because they've asked me to come visit, but everybody's not as close as Nipawa. But
Grump is pretty close. We should get him out to Grump.
that's in Minnedosa.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard.
I've bugged Dave, and like his, he's very camera shy. I told
Oh,
him we
yeah,
were
I
gonna
know.
convince him, but like if you guys put the gears to it,
I
it's
could
totally
probably,
different.
if we both give him a nudge, I bet we can make it happen.
I don't have to bring a camera.
No,
but
but
you know,
No, they're bringing it.
yeah, I've been known to carry one around even when I'm not supposed to.
I can't imagine.
But I'm curious when operating a massive garden like that. What did you do? Did you oversee the garden? Or did you
No,
oversee
I'm
the
like a
employees?
sales and marketing guy.
Sales.
So
okay.
we had
Still-
a grower that looked after that. I was obviously like, it's a small business and like all hands on deck when they need to be. If we need help with something, someone's got to do something in the room. I learned a ton about cultivating weed out of working with that business, a ton about it. And then I started growing at home because I was like, I need to learn everything about this. So I started growing at home. That was such an event, has been such an adventure for me. I love it. I really enjoyed it. It's a nice hobby for me. It produces something, like it produces a product, and a lovely product. And so I love, like, when I got into growing, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never grown anything really, but I'm like, I got a master grower who's going to teach me everything he knows if I ask. And like, I just have to apply it at home. And like, I can do this. And it turned out, my first crop at home actually turned out decent.
Another one of those fun things about the job.
And it's a hobby. It's peaceful. What I love is like, if I go in my grow room at home, I'm just like, it's peaceful. Like I'm in there. Like you can spend as much or as little time with plants, and too much is not good, but not enough is not good either. And it's a balance. But like, you can just sit there, just pick a leaf off, admire it a little bit, pick a leaf. Like,
Oh, it's a total zen. It's a total.
yeah,
zen.
it really is. And that's actually what that whole thing for me. It was fun to grow weed, but to me, it was actually this like peaceful process that gave me time to like maybe, come down from my day or
Adult
just like
hobbies.
chill
It's
out.
like
or-
making guys that do beer or wine at home.
Yeah,
Something,
right?
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's almost too though. Like beer and wine is cool, but there's something about growing a plant from seed.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like childbirth, man. Like, I created this, and like coming into the room, coming into the garden, time almost stops. For a moment, I can sit, I can relax. I don't need to worry about bills. I don't need to worry about relationships. I don't need to worry about work. I don't worry about, it's just me and my plants.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said about that. And that goes far beyond cannabis. There's something about gardening and just being at one with nature and with your plants. But it's definitely emulated when you've got a garden in your home.
Yeah,
So
I don't have that bug past cannabis. Like, I've never. The only reason there are plants in my house is because of my wife. I've never outdoors is like, I like the trees. I live out on an acreage, so it's not like I don't enjoy outdoors. It's just like, I don't care about keeping something alive inside. The sun's there to deal with that. Rain and everything. It doesn't survive. That's nature's fault. You know, like, I don't want to be responsible for it. I can barely take care of myself.
I thought the same thing.
And then
I had this rose bush up front. And then I
the rose bush.
Yeah, I've got a rose bush, a wild rose bush up front, and I train it just like I train my plants in the garden. And this thing turns out to be just a beautiful, just pink rose bush every year. So it's like, yeah, I can't do vegetables. I'm horrible at it. I don't have time and stuff. But gardening in general, whether you're doing cannabis, whether you're doing vegetables, there's a zen to be found in that. Totally. And I get it. A lot of fun.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you coming out though. Like, I like taking the journey. This is a whole thing, supporting us in the kick up that we're doing it.
It's exciting.
It's been one of the relationships I've appreciated early on making when you first came in the store. And we've had a lot of good conversations, smoking some joints and some park benches and such. And you know, it's I really appreciated that early on, and it was so nice to get the support from you when I was like reached out. Hey, I'm doing something silly, and you know. I'd love for you to be on it, so thank you.
No, I love it, man. I can't say thank you enough for having me here and like choosing me to be one of your earlier guests before this thing blows up into a massive thing.
You and Jesse were the first guests we had on the show. So
and it's fun to like get to spend a little bit of time with you on your island.
Well, hey, this island welcomes you anytime.
Thanks, Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Real quick, if anyone wanted to get in contact with you or reach out,
you can personally on my Instagram at Tim Dirksen, DOERKSEN. For TobaRolling, you can go at TobaGrown, and there you can get my partner Jesse. You can get me. You can get anyone you need.
Awesome, man. Thanks for the insight, brother.
Sweet.
We'll keep in touch.
We'll keep
in touch.
Absolutely.